Alrighty, another patch is about to come, 5.6. Yeah, we've been away in Nutlin for a few patches and now we're back to Mondstadt, which is absolutely great. I actually missed the region. Hopefully things are going to spice up a bit with a new upcoming patch. Now with all the new event that is going to be coming, obviously the most important thing we always look out for a patch is going to be the character. And obviously this time around we have Escoffier to have as a new character. She's absolutely interesting. We're going to talk about her in a bit, but obviously they are reruns character as well, which is why in today's video, as usual, we're going to be diving into the characters, reviewing them a bit again, and also providing my opinion in terms of which is generally the best decision that you can take at this point to hopefully help you make a better decision. Shalona is back and I know that many of you are excited for her, so if you're planning to swipe for pooling, then don't forget to check out Loot Bar. If you know me, I've been recommending you guys Loot Bar before, since you can always save almost a 23% on all of your top-ups with over 100,000 orders and so many good reviews at this point. And by the way, this also applies to PS5 and Xbox user who can place orders through Loot Bar. You can be sure that Loot Bar is trustworthy. Here you can see my order receipts of all of my top-ups that I have done. So guys, be sure to check out Loot Bar through the link in my description, as it can be a great way for you to save your money, especially if you are topping up a large amount. Now, before the official live stream, we've already talked a little bit about Escoffier as a character, so many of us should have already kind of have an idea of what her potential kit actually is. And now, since it has been confirmed, we know that she is absolutely going to be an amazing character when she is used in the right team, and that is going to be in freeze team or mono cryo, which though I still wouldn't recommend you to use mono cryo. You can still use her in the mono cryo team if you want to, but generally speaking, freeze team is going to be back into the meta. Hopefully we'll have to wait until she officially arrives to test out, but the ability to provide up to a 55 resistance shred to hydro and cryo is absolutely insane. Basically the character that provides the high resistance shred out there in the entire game in her raw kit. So obviously there are going to be potential for freeze team to make kind of a bit of a comeback. Other than that, she has the ability to actually heal your entire team through her elemental burst, and obviously we don't have the exact number just yet, but from the look of it, there is going to be potential that her elemental burst has a pretty nice scaling, which obviously there are going to be damaging number on her side. Moreover, she also has the ability to do off-field damage for you, and it also has pretty decent scaling. So not only is she going to be able to rest shred, she's going to be able to do off-field damage as a sub DPS character for you, and other than that, she has access to healing, not just your whole team, but also after that your on-field character gets healing from her as well through her passive, making her from her kit alone looks to be a very amazing character, because rarely do we have a sub DPS character that deals good damage while having access to whole team healing. So overall her kit at a C0 level is pretty much complete, which obviously would make it for a very good pool whenever we're looking into a freeze team. So that overall is a general about her kit. Now when it comes to making the decision of whether to pool on her or not, first of all, it obviously comes down a lot to whether or not you like a freeze team on your account, right? She's more like a character that is similar to how, you know, either a Nilu or a Chevreuse, where they work the best being used in either a Bloom or an Overload team. However, unlike those characters, Escoffier isn't actually stuck into a freeze team, because she can be used on another team as well. However, it's just that the resistance shred is just going to be lower, but either way, generally having a 10% or 15% resistance shred while being used on the other team with good sub DPS damage and also cryo application as well as healing for your whole team, yeah, it's a potential good usage of her on other team comps as well whenever you are investing into Escoffier. If for example you don't have other good cryo support character like a Sitlali. Now that's not to say that Escoffier can generally replace completely Sitlali when it comes to a melt team, because Sitlali is technically made for those kind of teams, but what I'm saying is that there are potential of Escoffier being decently used in other teams rather than a freeze team on your account, which is a a nice thing compared to characters that are pretty much stuck into a single team comp like a Chevreuse or a Nilou, which is something I really like Hoyoverse is doing when it comes to a more specific character usage. Now when it comes to looking into freeze team alone, technically speaking, at the current point in time, there isn't really that many of a character, because from the look of it, the only 3 characters that can be used pretty much in a freeze team is going to be Ayaka, Wriothesley or Ganyu. However, that being said, Ganyu and Wriothesley many of the times are pretty much rather be used in a melt team because overall their damage is still pretty good in those kind of team. That being said, obviously Escoffier giving us a 55% resistance shred while being used in the freeze team would tempt many of us to use them back in the freeze team, but the character that benefits the most from freeze team at the current point is obviously just going to be Ayaka, from the fact that she benefits a lot with your enemies being frozen into place to make sure her elemental burst doesn't miss. But there's also another downside of freeze mechanic at the current point is that a large boss's enemy technically can't be frozen, which still kind of sucks a bit. It would be really good if Escoffier Kit also allows us to freeze larger bosses enemies, because holy cow, that would make freeze insanely good. But while whenever you're using Ayaka specifically and you're up with larger bosses enemy that move around a lot, yeah, you're probably still going to be stuck in that kind of problem, but hopefully the 55% rest shred is kind of high enough for you to take out your enemies pretty much in a single rotation or 2, so you don't run into much of a problem whenever you're using Ayaka, which is definitely something we have to look into. Now that being said, there are potential. Again, we have mentioned that Skirk is going to be a character that pretty much is good in the free scene. So if you're thinking about Escoffier as a character and you love to invest into Skirk, Escoffier is definitely going to be a good, or if not the best, slot support character for Skirk at that point in time. Obviously, we still have to wait more information on Skirk to make a better decision wise, but if that's going to be the case and you love Skirk, then technically speaking, the whole of patch 5.6 pooling for you is just going to be surrounding Escoffier investment. Moving on, we have our lovely Kinich, who has his very first rerun. It has taken a bit of time for Kinich to be back, but while overall he's still very good at what he does in terms of pretty much raw dendro damage, big number. And while overall in terms of how much he's capable of damaging, yes, Kinich is still very much a powerful character, especially when you have his perfect team, right? Whenever you're investing into Kinich, obviously we kind of have to love Emily to be on his team, because generally speaking these two are made for each other. They both work the best in a burning team, so it's kind of sad that we don't see Emily being back alongside with Kinich, as Emily hasn't actually got her rerun in a while as well. And considering, you know, character like Navia and Raiden having their rerun, they already had a couple of rerun recently, and Emily hasn't got a rerun in quite a while, especially when we only have Kinich being the dedicated burning team reactions for Emily herself. But while if you still want to invest into Kinich, he's still a very good character. Obviously would love to have his signature because it allows him to deal a very high number. His team is rather simple to build around with. You can either build him on a burning team, right, with Bennett, and the last slot can be another pyro character. At this point, Mavuika would be a decent character for that in terms of all the damage buffing that she's capable of providing, and obviously she also has the ability to apply decent amount of pyro off field that I would say enough for you to keep the burning reactions alive until Kinich rotation ends, and then you can reset Mavuika herself. Other than that, you can also have Furina on Kinich team to have a bit of a mixed reactions, but obviously it still works in terms of how much off-field damage Furina is providing to your team, and also the damaging increase that she has as well. So those characters, you technically have many of them, I'd say, because, you know, Furina, Mavuika, Nahida, those kind of characters, many of you should be able to have access to. So investing into a Kinich team is probably not going to be too hard for him. Obviously, that being said, you also kind of need to like his playstyle as well, because again, DPS character is pretty much a preference at this point. He's a character that kinda move around a lot, and if you're using a Bennett on his specific team, and while generally Bennett is still one of the better character to be used on the Kinich team for supporting, then yeah, circle impact gameplay for Kinich still kinda sucks, as you need to actually aim how you move Kinich around quite a lot. Other than that, I feel many of the things that Kinich has access to, I quite enjoy having him as a DPS character, as even at a C0 level, he is capable to deal a lot of damage with access to free-to-play weapons. And so as a Dendro DPS character, he is still very good. And then we have Navia, our lovely Geo Queen, coming back. Now I believe Navia has already had a couple reruns, so if any of you who would love to get Navia, you really should be able to already have her. But wow, if you haven't got Navia and you would like to have a decent DPS character, obviously she's not the best DPS character out there, as we have so many DPS, but first of all, if you like Navia playstyle, you like her as a character, Navia's absolutely great Geo character up until this point. Well, thank God Holyverse has released a good Geo character for us to use around with. Still able to clear you out content very decently fast, but moreover, she is very much free-to-play friendly, as her best team would love to have Shilonen, but considering that Shilonen popularity is so great, many of you should have Shilonen on your account already, makes it that building Navia team is already halfway done, and the rest is either, you know, you have a Bennett on a Navia team, and then the last slot you can have a Farina, which obviously those kind of character many of us do have, but while you still don't actually need to have kind of like a Farina, if you want, you can have a Mavuika and a Bennett, so that you have double Geo and Pyro resonance on Navia team. So there are a lot of combinations that you can actually use Navia team building to go forward, as she is generally a character that is pretty much flexible in terms of how you would like her team building to be, and very much free to play friendly, and as well she deals really nice damage number for you. Decent free to play weapons. Obviously you'd love to have her signature if you do, other than that the Battle Pass is kind of nice, but wow, if you've already got Navia, then I think next step I'd just recommend you to get her signature. It does allow her to get really nice damaging boost. And other than that, if you're looking more investment into Navia, then it's going to be more or less going Constellation. Now her C1 is, well, technically not that great value in terms of the C1, where you're just getting low her burst cost generally. And wow, she doesn't really have much of a trouble having her burst uptime in the first place. So yeah, we don't really have to focus too much on the C1, and rather that a C2 is where it starts to get really good, because while it allows her to get more damage in terms of having her core one shot of fire support whenever she uses her skill, and then other than that you get a 36% crit rate boost, which is again, you can now focus very much in terms of crit damage building for Navia. So overall, well, yeah, C2 value is great out there, but again, you're looking at an investment of quite a lot, so do think about that, because while Escoffier and potentially Skirk is going to be coming down very near in the future. And then we have our lovely Raiden is coming back again. Well, if you want her, I'm pretty sure you already got Raiden Shogun, because yeah, she has multiple rerun at this point. However, yeah, Raiden value is still pretty decent. She's not the you know, best of the best DPS character out there at this point, but she still is pretty much comfy whenever you like to use her in Hyper Bloom team. It's very easy for you to build Raiden Shoguns. You don't really have to invest into it too much. And moreover, I think recently many of you have already got a C6 Sharus as well, so Overlord Raiden Shogun is still very much decent out there whenever you're looking into a hyper carry Raiden Shogun team. And then since obviously Mavuika is also here, you can technically use a Mavuika and Raiden Shogun team to have kind of like a really nice ring around them whenever you're using them, which is pretty nice. Now the thing is, with Mavuika, if you want to use on Raiden Shogun team, sometimes she's a little bit stuck with her fighting spirit stack, so that you can have Mavuika's elemental burst to be active. So it's kind of rough sometimes for you to get her, because of the nicer point that Raiden Shogun teams generate isn't really good. So really much the most comfy team out there whenever it comes to overloads, you're just gonna have Bennett, Xiangling, and Sharus. Very free to play friendly, and you can still pretty much use Raiden Shogun then. So those, I would say, guys, are some of the information regarding the characters that are going to be coming in patch 5.6. Now in terms of priority pooling wise, honestly speaking, if I were to be deciding to pull on the banner, obviously again Escoffier is is going to be the highest priority, unless you have other rerun character on your mind, especially if you want to invest into Mahuika or more of Sitlali constellations, weapon-wise signatures in the future. There are potentials that they are going to be coming back in patch 5.7. However, if that's not your priorities and you love free team, you want your cryo character to come back, then Escoffier is definitely going to be a lot high priority within this patch. And moreover, again, we'll wait for more information on Skirk, but while there are high chances that Skirk is going to be used in the free team, so with Escoffier here, it's definitely going to be a good priority. And then the other character reruns, they are all DPS characters, so a lot comes down to your preference wise in your account in terms of which character you wanting to decide to pull, right? Overall, Kinich is going to be having the highest personal DPS, but his team is rather limited in terms of his best premium team, because again, you would love to have Emily to be on his team to make the most out of it. Navia still very much great, but still a pretty much preference DPS character, because potentially Skirk we're talking a lot about Skirk at this point because I know you guys would love to have her on your account. Also going to be a decent, either a sub DPS or a very good DPS character for your account. So if you're looking into DPS character, there are a lot of other DPS character for us to be choosing, so again, they are all preference character. And finally, Raiden Shogun is going to be on the bottom of the list because at this point she's very much an older release character. So those, I would say, are some of the details and information I have to give on the character at the current point. If you do have any questions, guys, leave it down in the comment section and I or some other lovely Genshin Impact player will get to you there. If you're new to the channel, guys, don't forget to subscribe to not miss out on my future Genshin Impact channel. If you're having trouble on pulling on the patch and you're thinking about swiping, then don't forget to check out loot bars. I'm sure they will be very valuable to you. With that, I wish you a super day and I'll catch you on my next video.